Good morning, afternoon, and evening to all of you. My name is Frendo. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Global Infrastructure Hub, and I'm delighted to be a keynote speaker at today's RICS conference. Before I dive into today's topic, let me take a brief moment to introduce our organization. The Global Infrastructure Hub was formed by the G20 and is its dedicated infrastructure agency. As our role is to advance the delivery of a sustainable, resilient, and inclusive infrastructure by producing data, insights, knowledge tools, and programs that equally inform policy and delivery. The G20 is the premier international economic policy forum and actually plays a key role in shaping the future of infrastructure and its financing. And every quarter, I will update the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors on the state of infrastructure and its investment, and provide recommendation of what they could do to unlock its potential. So this leads me to today's topics and to provide basically some big picture trends on where we are at with the state of infrastructure investment at a challenging time for the world. The last 3 years have seen an unprecedented succession of crises, from COVID-19 to the war in Ukraine. Inflation and the energy crisis, which were previously rampant, have also exploded in the last year, amplified by the conflict. In that context, infrastructure as an industry has been challenged to its core, and in particular the transport sector. But we are also at an exciting turning point where infrastructure could unleash its transformative potential for our societies and contribute to countries' net zero strategies. In the last year alone, we've also seen some massive infrastructure investment announcements across many jurisdictions to help boost productivity, but as well to support the climate agenda. First, on the public sector side, our Infra Tracker, which is a tool that has been developed for the G20 that tracks budgeted central government investment in infrastructure, shows that collectively G20 economies, which represents 80% of the world GDP, are investing around $2 trillion in infrastructure. This is encouraging, but still very far away from what is needed. Additionally, governments are massively investing in road maintenance. At a time where we are facing a dire climate crisis, the GI Hub, as the G20 dedicated infrastructure agency, continue to urge governments to invest into what is not only urgent, but important on the long run. The public sector cannot succeed on its own in this gigantic task of addressing the sustainable infrastructure gap, and must be joined by the private sector. So to shed some light on what the state of private sector investment is, the GIHub's Infrastructure Monitor, our annual flagship report, provides in-depth analysis to allow monitoring of private investment in infrastructure and infrastructure investment performance. So let me share 3 findings from this report. First, although private investment in infrastructure projects is growing in high-income countries, it is declining in middle and low-income countries where investment is needed most. The gap is extensive. In 2021, 80% of private investment in infrastructure projects occurred in high-income countries. The second finding is that rising inflation and interest rates have affected infrastructure less than other asset classes. It has indeed affected returns on infrastructure equities significantly less than returns on listed global equities, reflecting the resilience of infrastructure assets during economic downturns, something that we have also seen during the global financial crisis in 2008. So private investors are allocating more capital than ever to infrastructure to mitigate inflation risk, which is a very good news for the industry as a whole. Third, green private investment is at a record high, a trend seen recently across high but also middle and low-income countries. Global private investment in infrastructure projects was greener than ever in 2021, at a record high of 60% of total private investment in infrastructure projects. Most of this green investment in the renewable sector, which garnered almost half of all private investment in infrastructure projects in 2021. So now, how can we close the sustainability infrastructure gap? An important fact is that sustainable financing has more than doubled in the last 5 years. In 2021, 20% of private investment in infrastructure projects was financed either by a green bond or a green loan. This is more than double the average sustainable financing share, at 9%, in the 5 years before 2021. So although the trend is most evident in high-income countries, sustainable financing is starting to emerge in middle and low-income countries also. The sustainable financing has largely targeted the renewable energy sector, a sector where investors have gained experience and confidence over the years because they have also seen some very good returns. But to close the sustainability infrastructure gap, the focus on the government and the private sector should go beyond the renewable energy sector only. Through our recent G20 work on transition pathways, where we analyzed 250 national infrastructure plans across the G20, we identified that increasing the share of renewable energy generation and reducing the carbon intensity of fuels are the highest trends across the G20. However, renewable energy can only address up to 55% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, the world needs to look beyond renewables to meet net zero targets and SDGs. But beyond the sectorial focus, there is also an urgent need to boost the availability of scalable financing instruments. We need a dramatic shift in private sector participation and use international and development finance institutions as catalysts of this investment to meet our transformative goals. Two important actions here will be to first remove undue regulatory constraints, something that the GI Hub is working on with G20 members, as this has always been a consistent recommendation at the G20. It's time for implementation. And second, streamline the use of blended finance. Blended finance is growing at a rapid pace, a cumulative $132 billion in 2020 worldwide. And this is an opportunity that infrastructure as a sector is only just starting to seize. So what are the concrete actions taken by global organizations, key private sector players, and others to scale up finance, and in particular blended finance? In the last year only, we've really seen an acceleration of private sector-led initiatives that have offered promising approaches to make catalytic capital available at the project level or in fully blended funds. The Climate Fund Managers, the Climate Finance Partnership, which is sponsored by BlackRock, the Urban Resilience Fund, TURF, from Meridian, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the UNCDF, the Sustainable Infrastructure Investment Platform, which is a pilot project initiated by the Global Investors for Sustainable Development Alliance, or GISD, under the sponsorship of the UN, and the World Bank Global Infrastructure Facility, are all very good examples. And these initiatives are meant to grow. The GI Hub is working on tracking the rate of capital deployment to see the impact of these platforms measured. This will enable further optimization of blended finance strategies and scaling up of capital flows separately from mere market forces. So as a conclusion, in this uncertain time, one should see the opportunity more than the threat. Our history has shown that we could innovate and thrive in difficult times. Many measures must come together to scale up infrastructure investment for the climate transition. We need a holistic vision, but also we need to realize this quickly because time is running short. Governments do not have the capacity and the capability to define this vision alone. This ultimately is the responsibility of our entire community. Collectively, we could define this vision and create infrastructure systems to support it that are sustainable, resilient, and inclusive. Collaboration remains key to our sustainable future. So I wish you all a very fruitful discussion today, and I really look forward to hearing your collaboration ideas on the topic I've just mentioned. So feel free to reach out to the GI Hub at any time. So thanks to Rix for giving me the opportunity to address you today, and thank you all for listening, and have a great day.